Wall Street stock market experts were just outsmarted by the power of people on social media. And we are going to discuss a few incredible things that have come out of this story so far, from waking up the masses about the reality of the systems we live in every day, to exposing Wall Street, all while bringing the most unlikely people together unlike ever before. But before we get into that, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Nick Zangel. This is the place where we comment on anything from pop culture to politics while exposing fake wokeness, cancel culture, regressive tribalism every Monday and Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Now, in case you were kind of unsure of what really happened in this whole situation regarding Wall Street and the Robinhood app and GameStop, the stock, somehow people on Reddit were aware of confidence on Wall Street, especially in hedge funds, in certain stocks' values dropping very quickly. And so that group appears to have banded together to drive up the price of those certain stocks as sort of a middle finger to the Wall Street elite hedge funds that actually protect these rich and wealthy people and their money. And a lot of people are hearkening this to the beginning of a possible Occupy Wall Street 2.0. And many feel that the ones rigging the system against them, against the working class, in favor of the rich, are the ones who are being targeted in this entire story. Now, this was also an everyday working class people almost revolt against Wall Street, and a reminder to Wall Street people who protect these rich, wealthy elites and their money, reminding them of who is actually in power, and it's we the people. And Wall Street said basically in effect, haha, no you don't have the power. We have all these safeguards in place for once you realized that the system was rigged against you. And to ensure that that system stays rigged against you, we have all these safeguards in place. Now, this situation, especially with regard to Robinhood, the trading app that claims to give access to virtually anyone to the stock market, I'll touch on that again later. It is so incredibly extreme, this entire situation, that the people who may have never really questioned or maybe on the fence about if the system is rigged against them or against a large group of people in America are now waking up in mass and are wide awake, not this fake wokeness, but this real wokeness of what is really happening. And it appears that the hedge funds of Wall Street and the people they protect aren't backing down to this group of fed up people, making it very clear they are holding accountable and exposing those involved with this crony capitalist corporate welfare bailout system that has been in place for a long time. And this system is something that both capitalists and socialists despise, but for obviously different reasons. This also helps support what I have been saying recently in a lot of recent videos, and what others have been saying as well, that this is more of a class issue that we are seeing. And most of our societal strife or conflict comes from class conflict. But the upper class are the people that these hedge funds protect and hope to keep wealthier, continue to gain more wealth. And obviously with their power in media, both social media, traditional media, whatever the case may be, they like to frame things as other conflicts like race conflict or gender or identity politics to keep you looking away from what the real issue is, which is class issue and keeping the rich in power and rich and keeping us middle class, lower class people where we are at to not threaten their power and influence. And speaking of distractions, along with what I just touched on about the agreement between socialists and capitalists regarding this crony-rigged capitalism, corporate welfare bailout system to the rich and to the powerful, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or you may know her as AOC, and Senator Ted Cruz, two polar opposites in many regards, seemingly agreed for a bit that this was wrong of what Robinhood did, which was appearing to halt trading of certain stocks, including GameStop, to seemingly appease the rich who are represented in these hedge funds, which contradicts the intention of the Robinhood app, which is obviously to give access to as many people as possible to the stock market, whether you're rich or not. Until AOC pulled what I just touched on, which was that distraction, having to make it into something that it is not, towards identity politics and this whole racial angle of it. And she did it by referencing the events of a few weeks ago at the Capitol during the certification of the Electoral College, where she basically alluded to the fact that she thinks, or she believes that the Republicans were egging on this group of other Republicans at the Capitol to come in and kill her and a whole bunch of other people. So we had a quick moment where two people who probably would have never agreed actually found something to agree on, and most, I think, of the country, and a lot of people who've been seeing this story all basically agree that this is most likely really wrong of Robinhood to do what they did to these average people just trying to trade and make a little bit of money off the stock market. And so, of course, one side had to ruin it, but it was fun while it lasted, the agreement. But I thought of this question of, what do we do about a system that we think is now rigged? It's a more widely spread belief that it's now rigged for these wealthy elites. And personally, I have mixed feelings about the whole tax the rich conversation. And some see it as if making the rich pay more taxes is them paying their fair share, even though, in my opinion, some paying more than others isn't exactly fair in my eyes. And others believe that you cannot get rich or wealthy without screwing people over along the way, which I think is a little extreme, because I would say there's probably a mix of ethical and unethical wealth acquiring. But in this situation, the rich and their Wall Street counterparts are now wanting more regulation put onto the average working class person, when they're the people who have always wanted less regulation of their industry. But of course, now that it's affecting them, they want it changed. Just like for a whole summer, there was all these riots and violence that a lot of politicians weren't really recognizing or pretending wasn't happening. And then when on the Capitol steps, they were directly threatened by a group of people, all of a sudden now they're against violence and this radical behavior because it's close to them and because it's actually affecting them. Now, the rich are really scared and want more regulation of the average working person, because they appear to be seeing this as a warning shot to them that the system that they've set up in their favor may soon be on life support, as the pressure on them is not going away anytime soon. Because even with all the protections already in place, and a history of little to no consequences for screwing over the little guy, we've seen this in the past couple decades, keeping the pressure on these people and these institutions and capitalizing, no pun intended, on this momentum by staying focused on the mission will be the biggest force for change of a system with huge odds stacked against us. But if something like this can happen in this big of a way, who knows what is next? Now, this to me also highlights the evolution of information in society, and it was mentioned by YouTube law commentator Emily D. Baker. You probably heard of her covering the Tati versus Without a Crystal Ball Katie Joy lawsuit. I've said that a million times. She's covered other influencer lawsuits, the Kanye West situation, a whole bunch of lawsuits out there, and she does a really good job of explaining it to kind of the everyday person. And a few days ago on her live stream talking about this Robinhood Wall Street situation, she touched on this idea that this is a sign that expertise is no longer concentrated in one area with a group of few people, which is a good thing for the little guy. And I completely love that she said that, and I completely agree. Because I think actually a similar thing is being done and being seen in the public health world during the whole pandemic response, where there used to be this one person or a group of people that people would go to for answers. And we saw that with Dr. Fauci, who was kind of praised last year as this idol and as this kind of given the God treatment, or this idolization of him. But because there is more access to information now, where people are forming different conclusions, and maybe they're doing things in a different way or using different methods, those conclusions and a lot of the information being talked about were discrediting him and a lot of other quote-unquote experts, especially in the year 2020 leading up to it, where the access to information and the ability to share it with any and everybody basically is a new thing to a lot of these people who have been in whatever industry they have been in, being praised as these experts for decades and decades as the evolution of technology and information has happened. Now, this is all good, like I said, because we are putting the power back in the hands of the people who can now regain control of their lives based on their own assessments and their own way of thinking. We are no longer handing over responsibility and our thinking to others who may not have the best interest of us in mind. Now, before you head down to the comment section, I want to remind you to go to my website, nickzangel.com. That's nickzangl.com. Put in an email and a first and last name. Click sign up. Go to that email confirmation. Click yes, subscribe me to this list to never miss out on an update from anything from me, any new content anywhere. And make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you are tuning in from. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button before you head to the comment section. If you're on Rumble, hit the boxing glove before you head to the comment section, and give this a rating on whichever podcast platform you are listening in from. And with that said, I will talk to you all in the comment section. Bye-bye.